Welcome to the Author Corner, our chance to meet the authors you'll want to read. I'm Stephanie, and I'm so excited to be joined today by Captain Sean Tortora. He's a master mariner whose new book, Steaming to Djibouti, shot to #1, and we are so excited to have you here to tell us all about, well, steaming to Djibouti. Nice to meet you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. Master mariner. That's bigger than a fishing boat, isn't it?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, a master mariner is someone who is licensed for an unlimited size ship. It could be the captain of any ship, like an aircraft carrier or something that size, bigger.
So like the size on this?
Yes, that was actually my ship. I was captain of that one.
Wow, that is definitely bigger than the last fishing boat I was on. And you're also a professor at the Merchant Marine Academy.
Yes, when I retired from going to sea, I started teaching at the Merchant Marine Academy, yes.
So you don't get seasick, do you?
No, actually, I do. I did. And I would tell the young officers it's okay because Lord Nelson, the famous Admiral Nelson, was known to be seasick.
Really?
Yes, that was one of the things about him. And he was one of the greatest tacticians. But in any case, especially on my smaller ships, when we would get underway, I would tell the whole crew, come on up and get your seasick pills. And I would say, look, don't be afraid to take it. I'm going to be the first one. And I showed them, I'm taking mine. I want everybody to take, because the last thing I know, if they get sick, now I lose a person in the crew. Right. So I said, it's not a sign of weakness. Lord Nelson was seasick, so, and I'm taking mine. The captain here, I'm taking mine. Watch. So, and then they all took it.
Well, that makes me feel better. That makes me feel better. Yeah, now they have those little, did you ever see those pressure things?
They don't work.
Really?
No, I tried all that.
You got to take the pill, huh?
Yeah, the pill was really all that works. And you get the non-drowsy one, because the certain ones make you drowsy, so.
Hey, who knew I was.
But you only need it for a couple of days, and then once your inner ear equilibrium gets, you're pretty good to go.
Really? Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought it was like forever you had to take that pill.
Once you get your sea legs on, so to speak.
So that's like an actual thing to get your sea legs?
Yes. Well, that's also for walking on the ship, because when the ship is moving, you're walking down the hallway, you look like a drunk walking back and forth because the ship is moving. But eventually, your body will adjust for that, and you'll be able to anticipate when the ship moves, and you'll actually walk straight now, and that's part of getting your sea legs.
Wow. So this was your ship. This one in the picture here is your actual
ship, yes.
Wow. Now, do they graduate you? Like, do you start with something smaller?
Well, once you're, it depends on the company, but my company didn't. Master mariner, you can go to any
Here's
ship.
A big ship, here's the keys.
Well, and actually, the bigger the ship, the easier it is.
Really?
Yes.
That sounds like one of those things that you just kind of say.
No, it's true. The bigger the ship, the better it handles, the better it rides on the ship, and the more support staff you have with you, the bigger the crew. So it's actually, the smaller the ship is actually, and when I say small, they're all unlimited tonnage. So when I say small, instead of that's like a 50,000 ton ship, so maybe go down to a 25,000 ton ship or a 15,000 ton ship. There's more work for the captain, the crew, because there's less of them. So it's actually less work on the bigger ships.
When you were a kid, were you like playing Battleship and you were really into it? I mean, was that what a dream from?
Well, my father was a chief engineer, so I knew a lot about it. And I started sailboat racing very young on the Long Island South Shore.
Nice.
So I was progressing that way all through. I had an idea that I wanted to go to sea, and then it just kind of sort of progressed that way where I went to college and whatnot.
Fantastic. That's exciting. So you have literally been, I mean, I'd never heard of Djibouti before this. Evidently, it's a real place.
Yes, it is. It's a city-state.
Okay.
It's on the east coast of Africa, right around the Horn of Africa. It's in a very strategic location militarily, and in the area of the Gulf of Oman and the Red Sea. It's right there. And for our anti-piracy operations, because my ship was a Navy ship. That's a hub. It's a logistics hub for U.S. fleet and Navy and NATO ships. But it is a sad place. It's abject poverty, I say. It's very sad and corrupt.
Wow. You said piracy, so it's near like Somalia and
It's
all
right
those-
next to it's the
Okay.
country right next to Somalia. You got
Okay.
Somalia to the south, you got Ethiopia to the north.
You ever deal with pirates?
Yes, we did. We had to take. It was a funny story because they're not going to big gray ship with a number in the front, U.S. Navy ship. It looks like, even though they're merchant mariners running it, they don't want to attack us. But what it is, one of the Navy ships had 4 pirates that they were holding, and they had to go to port, and we were looking for a port in the area that would take the pirates. Oman didn't want them, Kenya didn't want them. We wouldn't give them back to Somalia because they'd just go right back out. So you couldn't go into port with any of these pirates. So they transferred them to my ship, and we put them on my ship, and we put them down the cargo hold, and they put the U.S. Marines on there for guarding them. And then we had the concertina wire around where they were staying and a head and everything like that. It was rather sad because you had to teach them some basic things like sanitation and whatnot.
Wow.
They weren't familiar with that for the ship. But then eventually we gave them back to the Navy. No one would eventually take them, so they sent them to New York for trial. Who knows? They're probably somewhere in the city now.
So that's what happens to pirates out there? They end up in New York somehow?
If the countries won't take them and we capture them, we have to bring them back. They get a trial here in Manhattan, and then chances are, if they didn't kill anyone or anything like that, I'm sure they're 100 times better off now. They're like the best thing that ever happened to them.
Wow. I never thought about that. Every time I hear pirates, I'm sure they don't look like pirates, do they?
No. The Somali pirates or the African pirates are not like the Caribbean.
Yeah. With the
pirates
patch.
of the Caribbean. No. They're very tall. They're skinny.
Okay.
We used to call them thins.
Really?
Yeah. They're malnutrition.
Yeah.
They don't have enough food to eat.
So do they pirate just hoping that they'll get captured and brought to something better? Is that a method?
I don't think they do that. I think
that far ahead?
I think they're pressured to by the warlords
Right.
that run the country that they have to. I don't think they really want to. I've never. I mean, they would never. I've seen some of their methods of how they get their ships. They pretend they're in distress, and a ship has to go near them, and then they have to break out all their weapons. That's how we caught a group once.
Wow.
They were in a boat, looked like distress. I brought the big ship over there, and they immediately put their hands up because they saw the big gray ship.
The big gray ship with the big number in the front.
And the 50 caliber
Wow.
weapons. And then we transferred to a Navy ship. Pirate. It's gotten a lot better since we started acting there around 2009. About 10 years ago was the worst, around 2008, 2009. But over the years, since we've been very active there. And that actually was the original purpose of the U.S. Navy, was to protect the sea lanes, so for commerce, for shipping.
Right.
And if you go back far enough, the Barbary pirates, the Navy went there. So I thought it was interesting because the Navy was doing what they were originally designed to do. So definitely was interesting. But it's been worked. Now the Navy, we escort the ships and back and forth. So the piracy chances have really dropped.
Really?
Yes.
Good for you. I know Steaming to Djibouti is all sorts of stories about your first foray, but I'm sure you have so many.
Yes. Yeah. That's part of the problem going to sea too long, and I always tell the students, I said, you see all these stories I have? That means I went to sea way too long.
But all these were just your first time.
Well, there's some flash forwards
Gotcha.
and foreshadowing, and then there's
right.
flashbacks. So I try to add it all in.
Gotcha. And I'm sure with your students, you're telling them all sorts of stories. Do they get, I'm going back home after this?
Well, no, they love my class because if they have a trick that they try to get me to talk about the stories so I don't teach the class.
Oh.
And before you know it, because I enjoy telling them all the stories, the time has run out.
Right.
And they're like, yes, we didn't have to have class today.
So now that you have the book, you can just say, read the book, and then you can keep teaching your class.
Well, now I say close to that. I say, it's in the book.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Yeah, you want to read it? I said, can you tell us? I said, it's in the book.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, I've told some of them over the years, so now they read the book and they say, I remember when you told us that story. So, see, they call my class Sea Stories 101.
Is there like a fan favorite story?
There is the helicopter incident. That is a favorite.
Can you give it to us with
this
little
sanitized
preview?
version?
The sanitized version, yes.
Well, I was I was new. I've only been on merchant ships, so this is. See, the company I work for, I work directly for the Navy, and all the logistics ships and the support ships and underway, they're no longer operated by the Navy. They're operated by civilian merchant mariners, U.S. merchant mariners who work directly for the Navy. So I'm on this ship. It's got a helicopter detachment because we transfer cargo vertically through the helicopter. And then the helicopter detachment is active duty Navy. And we were in, it was Bari, Italy. I'll never forget the port. And the captain came on and said to me, it was my first night watch, import night watch. He said, so how's it going on a ship with a helicopter? And I said, well, it's interesting, but is the helicopter supposed to move? We're in port, it's moving. Moving. And he was a Greek, Greek descent.
Right,
so he was a very screamer and anyway, he was like, show me. So we go in, and the type of helicopter was CH-46. The bulk of the weight was on the actually all the weight sat on the tripod aft, and in the front they had one wheel underneath the cockpit that really didn't take any weight, but it was just for, and it acted like a piston. It's very sensitive, so if anyone's walking around in the cockpit, that thing is moving. Well, we walked in the hangar, and that front piston is going up and down. It's moving. We're in port.
Yeah.
So what the heck? So he's upset. So he says, come on. So we walk in, and he walks up the stairs behind the cockpit, looks in, and there is a lieutenant that's a pilot in what I like to say, practicing for his honeymoon with an enlisted young lady. And when I say practice for honeymoon, they weren't getting married, but that's how I say.
You're just being sanitized for us.
Well, actually, that's the way I put it in the book, too.
Mm-hmm.
And he was flipping out. And then, the captain had him, you get in my office now, we're going to have this.
Oh, my gosh.
And then the guy was about 400 pounds. He pushes me out the door. I almost tripped down the stairs. And then he held the captain's mast right there that night. And the ironic thing is the young lady had asked to leave early deployment because she was going home to get married, and not to the guy that she was practicing with. So,
practicing.
Long story short, Capt pushes the phone, because we had a phone, we're in port, to her and says, call your fiance, tell him you're not coming home for your wedding, I'm not letting you go. I'm not going to give you permission, and you tell him why. That was right there in front of all the senior officers. She had to do that. It was pretty harsh.
Whoa. Yeah.
Kids like that. That story they like, and then they liked the first one when I got to my first ship, brand new, and I came down to my room. I opened the door, I turned the light on, and there's a young lady in my in my bed, and I closed the door. I thought, my God, I entered the wrong room. Oh, right. How, as I closed the door, the bosun had already put my name on the door. So I'm like, wait a second, this is my room. So this is my room. What do you know? Oh, well, I used to go with the guy you relieved, so you're kind of cute. I'll go with you. And I'm like, what is going on here? I was like, we'll talk. I'm going to sleep in the lounge tonight. And she said, well, I can't move out now. She was right ensconced in a place. She had everything.
She moved in?
She was in there lock, stock, and she took over because the enlisted ladies, female, they had to live in open berthing, like 4 high.
Right.
So if they got together, I mean, this was
They
years
got together
ago,
with
with
an
an
officer.
officer, they got the private room and head.
Oh my gosh.
So the kids just really enjoyed that story. Stuff like that doesn't happen anymore.
Did you have to matchmake her with somebody else?
No.
Or you decided to keep her?
No. I'm going to keep it professional. I went to the lounge that night, my first night, and I'm trying to sleep in the lounge. The captain walks in, and he actually looked at me and he said, how come you're not down with so-and-so? Like he knew that was going on.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, whatever. I was like blown away. So, it was an interesting first night on the ship. I really could have used the night in bed instead of that nasty couch
Right.
where many of dirty behind sat on that I had to lay
So
on.
next time I see a ship like this sailing by, there's a lot more that I'm not seeing.
Yeah, that's what I call the waning days of the Wild West to going to sea in the Merchant Marine. Those days they're gone. Those were 30 years ago. That was about 30 years ago. So you probably won't see that much anymore. Well, first of all, the reason why we had all the women military on board is because back then they couldn't be on combatant ships,
Okay.
the shooters. So they put them on the auxiliary ships. Well, now they're not on the ships. They're all on regular ship. They're all over the place. They're in submarines. So
Right.
you won't find that anymore as well. And, it was a different time.
Oh yeah, it was a different time.
I'm glad I got to catch the tail end of that. I mean, this is before, when you went to sea, then when you turned and passed the sea buoy, that was it. First of all, the captain was a judge, jury, and executioner. There was no, obviously, email. There was no phone. There was no way to get in touch. So whatever the captain said,
Right.
That was law. And I think it was like the last true autocracy.
Wow.
That changed before I retired. Email and phone, things could get off the ship, and the company or the base or the military could call you. And
Right.
But those days, that was interesting.
It.
Yeah,
It was like a floating country.
So I'm glad I got to, with a dictator. And if you had a benevolent captain, you were
Right.
good. But if you had the tyrant like I had on my first ship, which I describe in the book,
Right.
then that was interesting. Besides being a tyrant, he was a moron. And and as I say, the ship functioned perfectly in spite of him because everyone else was so, I don't want to say gifted, experienced and trained. So we could actually function in spite of this moronic captain.
So books like this can't get written anymore. The young guys.
They won't see that
won't
anymore.
see any of
No. Those stories, like I have a story where one of the crew members so drunk that I couldn't get him up the gangway to get on the bed. So I left him on the pier with blankets and watched him, all night until he sobered. I mean, if that happened today, we'd have a whole incident. The guy would probably be fired, and we'd have a safety stand down and drinking. But back then, the rule was you could drink as much as long as you could make it up on your own steam. We'd say up the gangway. But there was no drinking. Technically, the ships are dry at sea, so you're not supposed to have any alcohol at sea. But I always, I have a hypothesis. I said that when you go to sea, you're either a drunk or crazy. So throughout the book, I'm like, see, you're either drunk or crazy. So they're mostly drunk on the ship. Now they're not supposed to have, but interesting enough, they're all
Somehow
functioning
they got it.
alcoholics.
Wow.
There's nothing else for them to do. Smoke cigarettes is the other thing they can do. A lot of smoking of cigarettes, and I wasn't a smoker, so that was a tough. When you're enclosed in a small wheelhouse bridge, and 4 people are chain smoking. So. And they won't stop because the union says, mate, the union says we could smoke. I'm like, okay, but for me, can you do it for me? No, we can't do that. So.
How long are these ships out at sea at a clip?
Well, this was interesting. My longest was 22 months straight. I felt like I was in the whaling days.
22 months?
Yeah, I'll never forget it. It was during the start of the second Gulf War. I left. My son was in 2nd grade. I got back. He was in 4th grade. Yeah. So I missed, the end of 2nd, all of 3rd, and the beginning of 4th.
Did he recognize you when you came back?
It's not a good life for family.
Yeah.
So I would say it's horrible life for family. It's not like the Navy. So the Navy, they have shore duty where they can be at shore. In the Merchant Marine, you go to sea, and now the tour was 6 months, that I had to do a minimum of 6 months. But because I had some specialized skills in the area of the ammunition, they couldn't get a relief for me. That's another problem. They have to get someone to relieve you. So I was overdue for like a year. You could always quit, but then that would be like a desertion because it's wartime. So I stayed on the 22 months. I'll never forget that. But normally my assignments were 8 or 9 months straight, which is still a lot.
That's still a lot, especially when you have a young family.
Family, yeah, that's that's a challenge.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
To keep a relationship and family, is very much, and you can't make any plans. Oh, I want to attend so and so's wedding, and you don't know if you're going to be at sea. You don't know if you can get a relief. So, or so and so's graduation, maybe your kid's graduation. You don't know if you're going to be able to make it. You could try. There's no guarantee you're going to get a relief. When I was first officer, I used to kid around with the seamen, the able seamen, and I would say, who were overdue, and I'd say, "Oh, Jones, yeah, what's up, mate?" I said, "Hey, your relief, he was just born. He'll be here in 18 years."
Nice.
So that was. I
That's
wasn't too far off.
optimistic.
Yeah,
Oh
he was just born yesterday, so you're in good shape.
And you tell your students this to encourage them to stay in?
I tell them don't do it forever. Try to get out and do something to have a better life. It's beautiful. There's great stories I have and experiences. I've seen over 100 countries.
Have you? 100
But
countries.
you give it up on the other side. It's very lonely. Can you imagine you're out there, and before email or
Right.
if something happens, you have nobody
Yeah.
to talk to. When I was a young officer, that horrible captain he punched me out on the bridge wing, which you'd go to jail. I couldn't tell anybody or do anything, and I couldn't even talk to anybody about it. I went back to my room and I had to finish my duty, and then when I picked myself up off the deck, and then I just sat there slumped over. So nowadays, at least someone could type in, "Hey, I've been assaulted on the ship," or whatever. So.
Well, that's good. You could at least type that. But
We have phones too.
So it's a fun life for the young for a period of time.
If you're young and single, this is not so much anymore. But back then it was very fun. I mean, there was parties in so and so's room, but it's very rewarding when I'm on the bridge and I come along. And I'm captain, and we have an aircraft carrier, a super carrier, come alongside, and in 3 hours I can give them 1 million gallons of jet fuel. I give them 700 pallets of food, ammunition. And, they're a national asset. There's only 11 of them. It's supposed to be 14. There's 11 are acting right now. And they're so high up. If anything happens, the first thing the commander-in-chief says, the president says, "Where's my carrier?"
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I have to support that carrier.
Right.
So, to me, that's very rewarding. But
Absolutely.
I'm keeping that. And they eat a lot. There's 5,000 people on that carrier. And
if it wasn't for the replenishment.
I think it runs on soda and ice cream. That's why. Because I give them every week. I give them over 400,000 cans of soda a week. And ice cream. Oh, that's the biggest thing.
Really?
It's hard to give them the ice cream. You're in the middle of the Persian Gulf. It's the summer. It's like 115, 120 out. And I have to transfer by helicopter pallets of ice cream. I have to keep. And one time when I was a first officer, I wasn't the captain on one ship. The ice cream, when it got over to the carrier, it was melted, and I didn't hear the end of that. So I had to come up with a new way. So it was funny. So whenever we're getting ready to send the ice cream, we call over to this. "Are you ready to receive the ice cream?" "Yes, we're ready." "Okay, because we're bringing it out of the freezer now. You're ready." So we get it up. "Okay, it's out of the freezer. Are you ready? Helicopter, stand by. Are you ready to take it?" I mean, it's like, this is ice cream.
Hey, I'm loving ice cream, man. I'm all for taking
But that's
care
what
of the ice cream.
that's why I say the ship over there runs on ice cream and soda. It's a younger on the carrier. The average age is like 19, but on our ships the average age is like 50, 52.
Seriously?
Yeah. So our guys, they want coffee and cigarettes. They don't really care about the ice cream as much. But they want the coffee and cigarettes.
I'm the ice cream girl. I'd be making sure you guys they were that melty.
The food is terrible, but somehow no one's losing weight. I always say I always love that. I said, food's so bad, but because they're eating all the snacks and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you're not bringing in like veggies.
No. I always thought it was funny. When I went to my first ship, I learned that people eat things that my mother used to threaten to feed me if I were bad. Like pig's knuckles and frog's legs and I always thought that was just a joke. I get on the ship, they had it on the menu.
Did they really?
Yeah.
And you ate it?
No. I used to tell the steward, I don't eat spare parts. I don't do spare parts. No, I wouldn't eat the pig's legs, the frog leg, the ham hocks, or the chitlins.
Chitlins.
Which is pig intestine.
Yeah.
I didn't eat any of that, but it was very popular and probably not too healthy actually. So that's why.
That's why nobody's losing weight.
And they cooked with lard too. I always thought it was funny. They send us to these physicals. Hey, your cholesterol's high. Yeah, but you're using lard on the ship. I mean, you send me out for 9 months on a ship where I have to eat. How can I keep my cholesterol down? And then they complained. Some of the crew I would have as captain, I would have a menu review board.
Right.
So the crew would come in. I had one crewman say, "We don't have enough fried food here." I said, "We don't have enough fried food. That's all we do is fry everything here."
Well, we're glad we got you off the ship eventually, so that we can get you healthy.
Yeah.
It's an experience.
Yes, it was fun. Like I said, it was rewarding, and you see a lot of different people.
Right.
Probably people that you would never run into in your life unless they're at sea. There's quite a few malcontents out there.
I'm sure there are.
And for lack of a little undesirables.
Yeah. Well, they all made it into a fictionalized story, but people you said who were involved, you can kind of read between the lines with some of this stuff.
Right. Officially, it's all fiction.
It's all fiction.
Yes.
All the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
There you go.
Or protect the guilty.
That's right.
Whichever way you want to put it. So I guess for our viewers out there, if chitlins and seasickness pills don't appeal, but you want to hear all about the glory days on the high seas, firsthand experience from a master mariner, professor at the Merchant Marine Academy, and captain of that ship. Captain Sean Tortora's Steaming to Djibouti. You can get it every place, and you could read it and be dry and safe and have a nice cup of coffee in your hand while you do so.
And the stories are quite amusing. You'll get a good laugh out of them.
Absolutely. Captain, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for joining us. Happy reading.
We're just books upon a shelf. Try to understand this if you can.